Fighting has raged in Syria for nearly 3 years, leaving an estimated 100,000 dead and 8.5 million exiled or displaced, nearly half the country's population. The United Nations says more than 9 million Syrians are in urgent need of aid, and many of them cannot be reached because of the fighting. With the West and Arab states supporting the opposition and Russia and Iran supporting the government, the two sides have fought to a stalemate and have hardened their demands, according to Chris Doyle of the Center for Arab-British Understanding.
Neither the regime nor the various myriad opposition forces are yet in a position where they're yet ready to draw down from their maximalist positions.
That was evident in the days leading up to the conference, with Western officials saying Syrian President Bashar al-Assad must resign, and Assad saying he has no intention of doing so. Under intense Western pressure, the divided opposition reluctantly agreed to attend the conference, but said it would walk out if the regime tries to divert the discussion to just about anything other than Assad's removal. There are proposals for ceasefires, prisoner exchanges, and humanitarian corridors, but David Butter of London's Chatham House says this conference is not likely to make progress on such issues, and procedural agreements might be the best that can be hoped for.
If there is a framework that ultimately could bring the parties in, then that is better than nothing. I think that's just about as much as you can say for this process at the moment.
Butter notes that many of the opposition fighters have refused to send representatives to this conference, with the most militant threatening to retaliate against any group that does attend.
Any sort of settlement to the Syrian conflict will necessarily have to involve people who actually are on the ground doing the fighting. None of the main groups on the ground are committed to any sort of negotiating process at the moment.
Regional powers like Iran, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey further complicate the crisis, each with their own interests to protect. Chris Doyle says it's just not possible to satisfy all the myriad parties to the Syria conflict.
These actors have also got to come to terms with the fact that they're not going to realize all of their goals, and they need to cool down the Cold War that has entrapped Syria, that has actually fueled the fighting.
The United Nations, which is hosting this conference, has long described the plight of the Syrian people as desperate, but experts say the conference is mainly about big power diplomacy and perhaps starting a process among the Syrian parties, with little expected in the way of concrete results to move toward ending the war or helping its victims. Pessin, VOA News, London.